Creatures will often ask the question about what it is to live in the divine will from a spiritual point of view. We recall Adam and how he lived in the divine will as a son of God. We are all sons and daughters of God by our mere creation by him. This gift of the divine will has only been offered to creatures in this time of history. Therefore, it is a very high privilege to gain the knowledge of it. I want to remind you that in one of the later volumes our Lord says of the soul to him, one soul, is worth more than the entire created universe. That's how worthwhile you are. So don't ever worry about whether or not you're worthy. Before I read the following message, I wish to explain the difference between will and volition. Volition is a noun, and will is the verb sense of the same word.
My daughter, after so much they should already know it, the true living in my will is to reign in it and with it, while doing my will is to be at my orders. The first state is to possess, the second is to tend to its dispositions, to execute its orders. The living in my will is to make my will one's own. It is to use it. To do my will is to perceive it as the will of God, not as one's own, not to use as one wishes. To live in my will is to live with one single will, which is God's. And because there is only one volition, which is all holy, all pure, and all peace, and because there is but one volition that reigns, there is no resistance. Everything is peace. Human passions tremble before this supreme will. They would like to flee from it, but do not dare to move or oppose it, because they see that heaven and earth tremble before this holy will. So the first step to live in the divine volition, which seeks to give to a creature the divine order, is in the depth of the soul, where grace moves it to empty itself of all that is human, tendencies, passions, inclinations, as well as other things. On the other hand, to do my will is to live with two wills, so that when I give orders to carry out mine, creatures feel the weight of their own will, which causes resistance, and even though they faithfully execute the orders of my will, they feel the weight of their rebellious nature, their passions and inclinations. And how many saints, in spite of having reached the highest perfection, feel this will of theirs that goes to war with them, that keeps them oppressed? They are obliged to cry, "Who will free me from this body of death, from the will that wants to destroy the good that I wish to do?" The living in my will is to live as the Son. It could be said by comparison that only doing my will is to live as a servant. In the first, what the Father possesses, so also does the Son. Moreover, it is well known that the servants are obligated to make more sacrifices than the Son. It is up to them to endure the most tiring and most lowly services in the cold, heat, travelling by foot, and other such tasks. In fact, how much have my saints not done, although my dearest friends, to carry out the orders of my will? On the other hand, the Son is with his Father, who takes care of him, cheers him with his kisses and with his caresses. The Son commands and orders the servant as though he were the Father. If he leaves, he does not go by foot, but travels by carriage. And if the Son possesses all that belongs to the Father, he does not give the servants more wages or reward than are merited by the work they have done. They remain free to serve or not to serve their master. And if they do not serve, they no longer have a right to receive any reward or compensation. On the other hand, between Father and Son, no one can dissolve these intimate relations by which the Son possesses the goods of the Father. No law, either celestial or terrestrial, can annul these rights, because the relationship between the Father and the Son can never be broken. My daughter, the living in my will is a living that most approaches the blessed in heaven. It is as distant from those who simply conform to my will and faithfully do it as heaven is from earth, or a son from a servant, or a king from his subject. And moreover, this is a gift that I want to give in these times so sad, that they not only do my will, but that they possess it. Can I not, as owner, give what I wish, when I wish, and to whom I wish? Is not an owner able to say to a servant, live in my house, eat, drink, decree on my behalf? And to ensure that no one impede the possession of his goods, he establishes this servant as his son and gives him the right of possession. If a rich man can do this, how much more can I? This living in my volition is the greatest gift that I want to give creatures. My kindness and generosity always wishes to overflow more with love towards creatures. And having given them everything, not having anything else to give them, so I might be loved. I want to give them the gift of my will, so that, possessing it, they will appreciate the great good that they possess. Do not be amazed if you see that they do not understand. To understand, they will have to dispose themselves to the greatest of sacrifices, which is not giving life, even in holy things, to their own will. Only then will they feel the possession of mine, and they will experience what it means to live in my volition. Be attentive then, and do not become annoyed by the difficulties they cause. I will make my way little by little, so that the living in my will is understood. Volume 17.
How God wishes to conquer the human will after 6,000 years of chaos and estrangement from the true spiritual life. Human creatures are being called to the divine will in this period of history to assist our God in a major way. I pray hard that you will be called to this most sublime mission through our Lord's servant, Luisa Piccarreta. In the context of regeneration, our Lord said to Luisa in the writings,
the seed gives other seeds. The fruit regenerates other fruit. Man generates other men. The teacher forms another teacher. Should only our will, for however powerful it may be, remain isolated, without exchange, without generating itself and multiplying itself in the human will? Ah, no, this is impossible. Our will have its exchange. It will have its divine generations in the human will, especially because this was our first act through which all things were created. That is, that our will transform and regenerate the human will into the divine. Our will came from us, and we want the human will. All other things were done in a secondary order, but this was done and established in the primary order of creation. At most, time could pass, but the centuries will not end without my will obtaining its purpose. Never would the divine will have left our bosom if I knew that my will would not have its complete effects. That is, that the human will becomes regenerated in the divine will. Do you believe that things will always be as they are today? Ah, no. My will sweep everything away. It will throw confusion everywhere. Everything will be overturned. Many new phenomena will occur and confuse man's pride. Wars, revolutions, deaths of every kind. Nothing will be omitted to attract man and dispose him to receive the regeneration of the divine will in the human will. And all that I have manifested to you about my will and all that you do in it are nothing other than to prepare the way, the means, the teachings, the light and the graces to make my will regenerated in the human will. If this were not to happen, I would not have manifested to you so much, nor would I have kept you sacrificed so long in your bed, to sow in you the foundation, of the regeneration of my will in yours, keeping you in the continuous exercise of my will. Do you believe that it is nothing that I am continually in you, placing on your lips my prayer and making you feel my pains, which, united with me, have so much value, producing other effects and having other power? It could be said that I am making the first statue, the first soul of the regeneration of my will. Afterwards, making facsimiles will be easier. Therefore I say to you always, be attentive, because it is important. It is about the most important thing that exists in heaven and on earth. It is a matter of putting in safety the rights of our will, of restoring the purpose of creation, of giving complete glory for all created things, and making us pour out all the graces that our will had established to give creatures, as if they had fulfilled our will in everything. Volume 17.